Hello guys, and welcome back to another cold episode. On today's episode, I wanted to talk about the best hand traps for the upcoming format, or for the WCQ, the World Championship qualifiers, right now in Master Duel. So yeah, we're going to go through the hand traps and just explain what's good, what's not, and what to look out for, starting with, obviously, Maxi. Maxi, best card. This card should be banned. Pretty simple, especially in a best of one, where it is an absolute menace. Yeah, Maxi is just, it's just too good. Turns off a lot of decks. Even against Tierra, it's good. You'll probably draw 2 to 3 cards, which then can be used to break their board. And since it will be probably weaker, yeah. Starting with Ash after that, it's not good versus Tier. It's good versus, like, everything else. It's not very good versus Tier. It can kind of do stuff against Tier. Like, it can negate, like, a Merly if they have a pretty bad hand, or like a Rhino Heart or something like that. It can negate terraforming, you know, if they end up going for terraforming, or like one of the Millers or something like that. Honestly, it's mostly better against other things, and it's mostly good because of Maxi. That's like the only reason that it's really good, but as of right now, it's one of the weaker of the hand traps. You're much better off playing like a myriad of other things. Right now we have Ghost Spell. Ghost Spell's good against Tier, but it's not very good in general. I'm going to put it up here. It's good against Tier, sure. But in general, it's a pretty mid card. It doesn't really do much. Like, I guess it stops like Called By, which is very nice. But again, not bad. But yeah, that's basically it. I'd rather, I would say it's probably like not as good as Ash in terms of playing it. Yeah, like if you want a card that's specifically good against Tier, we have DD Crow. DD Crow is very good against Tier. Being able to just pitch it and banish a Tier monster is very nice. That either forces out a Shuffler, or it forces, it banishes one of their Tier monsters, which is very nice. Whereas Ghost Spell just negates the effect, which isn't nearly as good. Also, they can chain block the Ghost Spell. So I'm actually gonna put this just down here. It's just okay versus Tier. It's not even that great. Yeah, DD Crow is much better. Chaos Hunter. No. Just no. This card, in theory, sounds very good against, like, Flunder, or, you know, being able to prevent them from, like, activating a Shuffler or something like that. But in practice, the thing is, it discards a card for cost in order to special summon itself. It only triggers if your opponent special summons a monster. And then, while, yes, you do get a monster on your side of the field, that could turn off things like Evenly Matched, or Imperms, or what have you. So that ends up just clogging up your hand as well. And then you're starting with 2 less cards, basically, for a mediocre effect against Tier and a fairly decent effect against, like, Flunder. But against, like, everything else, it's like, I guess if you're under Shifter, it could be pretty nice, because then you can, like, actually do stuff. You can, like, send cards to the graveyard, in theory. But in practice, it's really just not that worth it. It rarely comes up where it actually is useful. Next up, we have Droll. Droll is pretty mid in general. I don't think it's really good against anything other than Flunder. And if you're main decking a card specifically to beat Flunder, there are better options, right? Because there are options that hit Flunder while also hitting other things. So it's similar in nature to Chaos Hunter, but it also does do stuff against, like, Tier, because if they go, like, you know, terraforming, and then they search out the field spell, you can turn off their field spell from even being able to be utilized, but they're still able to mill, so, like, who cares? But then, like, it turns off, like, Scream and Soliek and stuff like that. So it's fairly decent, but it's not nearly worth it. Veiler's pretty good versus everything. It's decent against Tier, but it does turn on triple tack, unlike something like Imperm. So it's fairly decent, but not great. This is going to be a bit weird, but Gamma is actually really good. Gamma is not specifically great against Tier. It's good against everything else, but it is actually pretty decent against Tier. And the reason for this is because you are able to negate the effect to special summon, that being like the fusion summon, that your opponent's monster would activate. Right? Meaning that you can still negate the Tier monster without them really being able to do anything, right? You can also negate things like Kelbeck and Agito and stuff like that. You can also prevent them from, like, activating an effect that they would, like, on your turn, right? For example, if you were to activate, like, a Sprite Starter or something like that, and then they go, and activate like one of their shufflers, or they activate a Rukalos, you can then go for the Gamma there, and now you get an additional material on your side of the field. Like there's a lot of reasons as to why Gamma is pretty good. And yeah, it's good versus most other things, and okay versus Tier. I guess we'll put it here. It's pretty good. It's just something that you should probably keep in mind. Ghost Ogre is pretty bad, just in general right now. It's good against Sprite, and that's basically it right now. I guess it's kind of decently good against like runic stuff, because you can like pop the runic spell, or the runic field spell, which isn't bad. But other than that, it's not great. Imperm is probably the second best hand trap as of right now, specifically against Tier. Being able to negate their whatever it may be on their field is very nice. Specifically like Kit Kalos, being able to stop a Kit Kalos is very nice. On top of that, it stops things like Baguska, it stops Flunder, it stops Sprite in several instances. If they go for like a gigantic pretty early, you can stop that. It just stops basically everything. And the fact that it is a spell, or sorry, a trap instead of a monster effect, means that it doesn't trigger triple tactics, which is very nice. And you can use it during like draw or end phase or something like that, whereas you can't really do that with the effect failure. Lancia is just not really good right now. It's decent against like Flunder and other such anti-tier hate stuff. But even with that being said, it's not really worth it, because it's really only activatable on your opponent's turn. So it's not something that you could do on your turn to potentially protect your own cards, right? So not really worth it. Ghost Mourner and Moonlit Chill is fine. If they do something like special summon the Kit Kalos, you can then activate its effect in order to negate the kit. And stuff like that, but it's not all that great. Nibiru can work against Tier, but it's not that great against Tier. It's great against most other things. Flunder tends to summon more than 5 times now. Sprite can do that, but oftentimes they'll stop that from being activatable through Gigantic. Black Wings die to this card, etc., etc. So lots of good applications, and even against Tier, it can work. Like for example, if they've triggered basically all of their cards already, you can basically just like activate Nib, send everything away, and then like force them onto like a weaker field. You're not necessarily dealing with the field entirely, you're just kind of forcing them onto a weaker field, right? Like for example, if they go like if you're able to do that before they go into like Rukalos, you can send everything to the graveyard and then force them onto like just Rukalos maybe. Yeah, so it's kind of one of those things where, hey, if they activate all of their effects, it's not too bad. Not necessarily worth it, but not too bad. This card is only really playable in Tier, so it's kind of hard to rate Herald. It's decent if you're able to play it, so I'm going to put it like here. It's almost always good. It's just Gamma, but better. It also triggers your Shizu cards, or gets like a Shuffler into the graveyard, which is very nice. But other than that, it's very rarely playable. But if your deck can play it, it's very nice. Dimension Shifter is really only playable against Tier. If you activate this and all of a sudden your opponent normal summons Robina, you're probably screwed. Like, you're not going to have a good time. But all in all, like, it's still a really good card, specifically against Tier, so it's worthwhile. Skullmeister is fine. Like, it's good against Tier, but even with that being said, it's still not great. It's kind of a negate. That's basically it. It's just kind of a negate. Winter Cherries is, again, pretty good versus Tier. And like, I don't know. I'm gonna say it's okay in general. If you could banish like Kit Kalos, if you're playing, for example, Flu, and you don't need your extra deck, or anything else like that that doesn't really need its extra deck, or can spare a spot in its extra deck to just throw in Kit Kalos, you could then just go Winter Cherries, reveal the Kit Kalos, and then deal with your opponent's Kit Kalos. You could also deal with Sprite Elf. You throw that in there, you banish it, prevent your opponent from utilizing the Sprite Elf as well. So like there are definitely applications to the Winter Cherries. How good is it? It's okay. But yeah, that's basically it for the hand trap list. I wouldn't really... trying to think of other hand traps that would even be playable, and I can't really think of any off the top of my head. Yeah, there isn't really anything that's like a hand trap that's very good. Triple Tack is a card to note. Triple Tactics is seeing a lot of play right now due to things like Havness and what have you. Just lots of cards being played on your turn. So being able to go like Triple Tack and like steal a monster as well is very nice. Or look at your opponent's hand is also very nice. So there's that. But yeah, that also influences the list quite a bit, right? Being able to like shotgun things without having to go into the main phase is very nice. So like the or like playing around the requirements, right, of activating a card or a monster effect. So, you know, Imperm, things like this that can be shotgunned, obviously are going to be much better. Anyway, that's going to be it for this episode. I hope that you guys did indeed enjoy it. If you did, I like it very much. I appreciate it. And if you want to check out more content like this, as well as more Yu-Gi-Oh!, then just be sure to subscribe. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and remember to always stay frosty. Bye-bye. Shout out to the Frost Guard, my members. Thank you guys so much for the support, and I hope you enjoy the content.